We usually imagine the 16th century as an era of absolute ideological warfare, a time when Western Christendom and the Islamic Ottoman Empire were locked in a rigid, bloody clash. But the Venetian Republic complicates that picture. While Rome aggressively demanded Catholic purity, Venice operated as a bustling cosmopolitan crossroads, more interested in cargo than in catechism. This environment created a unique class of people known as renegades. These were individuals who moved fluidly between these two worlds, changing their religious identity whenever it served their survival or their trade. For Venice, running a diverse trade empire was a practical necessity, but to the Pope, this pragmatic approach looked like an ideological vacuum, a gap in the defense of the faith that had to be filled. Evidence of this tension lived inside the private homes of the Venetian elite. This is a portego, or salon. These were semi-public zones where the city's wealthiest families displayed their status through art and music. It was in spaces like this that audiences watched Claudio Monteverdi's Combattimento. The performance tells a violent story of a Christian crusader and a Muslim warrior fighting to the death. There is a stark contrast here. Venetian aristocrats sat in luxury, watching stylized enactments of holy war, while their actual ships were outside the harbor, engaging in peaceful, pragmatic business with those same enemies. This art allowed the elite to perform the role of the pious crusader in the safety of their homes, maintaining their Christian identity while their wallets remained open to the wider multicultural world. This tension was most acute on the frontier. Looking at this map of Cyprus, we see an island that sat on the literal edge of the Venetian Empire and the physical border of Christendom. This manuscript, Codex B-030, is a private report detailing the island's religious landscape. It's an audit of diversity, highlighting Copts, Armenians, and Orthodox Greeks. Crucially, the author sees them not as neighbors, but as communities practicing dangerous religious errors needing correction. To the administrators in Venice, these different groups were part of a functioning economic system, but to the authorities in Rome, this multicultural reality was a theological threat. To solve that threat, Rome sent Archbishop Filippo Mocenigo. He arrived in 1560 with a specific mandate: bring Cyprus into alignment with the strict, rigid reforms of the Council of Trent. Mocenigo immediately began drawing hard lines. He convened a synod to enforce Catholic rituals on the Orthodox Greek majority, effectively telling the local population that their traditional faith was no longer acceptable. The Venetian state authorities tried to intervene. They worried this sudden religious zealotry would spark a revolt among the people they needed to help defend the island. This internal friction divided the island's focus. Only 4 years after Mocenigo's synod in 1566, the Ottoman Empire launched a massive invasion. By 1570, Cyprus had fallen. While it's impossible to blame the fall on a single man, the drive for ideological purity created a house divided. Energy that could have been spent on fortifications was instead spent on theological policing. Mocenigo fled back to Italy, but he soon discovered that the same engine of reform he had championed in Cyprus was now looking for targets closer to home. The Roman Inquisition arrested him. They charged him with possessing a geography book with Lutheran commentary and writing a personal treatise that the Church deemed ambiguous and dangerous. Even though he wasn't a heretic, Mocenigo was never allowed to return to power. His career was ended, and the Church ordered his books to be confiscated and destroyed. Mocenigo's story shows how quickly the standard of purity can shift. Even the most aggressive enforcers of a system can find themselves on the wrong side of the line when that line starts moving. While Mocenigo died in a secluded hermitage, the Venetian state continued to choose survival over dogma. In 1606, Venice took its boldest stand yet. When the Pope tried to use his supreme authority to shut down the Republic's legal system, Venice simply refused to recognize the order and kept its society running. They continued to foster art, like Monteverdi's, that explored the messy, blurred edges of human identity, the borderlands where different cultures and beliefs inevitably overlap. Venice didn't survive by building walls of absolute certainty. It survived by navigating the complicated, often uncomfortable space in the middle, a lesson in pragmatism that remains just as relevant today.